Ah, yes, politics, the noble art of calling your opponent names while pretending you care about the American people.
Will have been preventable.
Debates that sound more like Twitter threads.
They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats.
Campaign ads that could double as roast battle. But, believe it or not, there was a time when politics was supposed to be civil. Or at least, when the insults took longer to download than dial-up. So, let's rewind to the 90s. The year is 1996. Grunge, dial-up internet, and a presidential race between Bill Clinton and Bob Dole, baby. Let's go! Woo! Bill Clinton was running for re-election, and, well, we all know him. Famous for his saxophones, fast food, and that little affair history loves to bring up. But this video isn't about Clinton, because we heard that story 1,000 times. No, today's spotlight is on his opponent, Bob Dole. Dole's campaign did something pretty new for the time. They launched a website, a full-on HTML, barely formatted, nice relic of a site. And while it might look laughably primitive today, back then, it was revolutionary. So, let's crack this thing open and let's see what it tells us about politics, audiences, and the digital user experience in the early days of the internet. Alright, let's set the stage. Lights. Are lights to go? Hey, producer, is the lights to go? Alright, okay, perfect. Okay, let's set the stage. Lights on. It's 1996. The internet was basically still a toddler. People are logging on through AOL, waiting 5 minutes for a single picture of a dancing baby gift to load. And websites are mostly text on gray backgrounds. Into the strange frontier steps Bob Dole's campaign. The purpose of this website? Simple. Make Bob Dole look presidential, share his policies, and maybe, just maybe, convince early internet users that he wasn't a fossil compared to his 50-year-old saxophone guy in the White House. Design choices? Ooh, they're chef-kiss 90s. We're talking blocky text, patriotic clip art, and links stacked like a filing cabinet. No autoplay videos, no memes, no TikTok dances, just pure, uncut HTML. And here's the thing, it wasn't just about design. This website was basically a digital press release machine. A one-way street. You could read Dole's speeches, browse his policy blurbs, and that's pretty much it. Interactivity? Forget about it. This was less social media platform and more political brochure that accidentally got uploaded to the internet. But even in its simplicity, the site revealed who it was really for. Not your grandma in Kansas who still hasn't figured out how to set a VCR clock. This was for journalists. Tech-savvy voters, and political junkies. Basically anyone squint through Times New Roman paragraphs on a 14-inch CRT monitor. As James Porter argues, digital spaces are not neutral. They act like rhetorical venues that preserve and shape meaning long after their liveness ends. And here's the wild part. You can still visit the website today. Thanks to forpresident.org, the original Dole Camp 96 campaign website has been originally preserved, almost like a digital time capsule. At the bottom, it even says, originally paid for by Dole Camp 96 Campaign Committee, presented for educational purposes by forpresident.org. The links? Half of them are broken. Some pages were never really saved, but that's the charm. It feels less like a live campaign hub, and more like wandering through a political museum exhibit, frozen in early web amber. Most of what's left are scraps, a few pages of Bob Dole, some old news posts, that mainly survived to announce the launch of the site itself. It's like the only thing the internet decided to save was a press release saying, "Hey, we have a website now." So, let's actually use this thing. Imagine you are an internet user in 1996. You fired up your Windows 95 machine, waited through your AOL dial-up symphony, and finally, Bob Dole's website loads. So, what can you actually do here? Well, you could read speeches. You could click through pages of policy text. If you are feeling adventurous, you could even download a press release, which probably took longer than the actual campaign lasted if you have dial-up. That's the affordance. You have 24/7 access to Dole's campaign. Pretty revolutionary for its time. No waiting for the morning paper, no hunting down C-SPAN at 2 in the morning. The constraint? Well, that's literally all you can do. There's no comment section, no forum, no live chat with Bob Dole. The site doesn't even talk back. It's not even interactive. It's a one-way broadcast just like innovation. Wait. Hold on, that's not right. What? Editor. Wow, that's not right. Okay. Technically, there was an interactive section. You could make a button, send a postcard, or if you're really hardcore, you could download Bob Dole's desktop wallpaper. But let's be honest, this wasn't interactivity, and it wasn't really that pretty, to be honest. It was just campaign swag. You just have to wait 20 minutes on dial-up to download. More brochure than community. And this isn't just me being snarky. Rhetorical theorist James P. Zappen points out that new digital media are always defined by their characteristics, affordances, and constraints that shape how people communicate and participate. Dole's site nailed the affordance of constant access, but slammed its door shut on interactivity, which, as Zappen would say, is half the story of digital rhetoric. But buried in all the seriousness was, wait for it, a cookie recipe. Yes, an actual cookie recipe, because nothing says presidential campaign like, here's how to make chocolate chip cookies. It's as if the campaign thought, you may not vote for Bob Dole, but at least you could think of him every time you preheat your oven to 350. This is where the user experience gets hilarious. On one hand, you got walls of text about Medicare reform, but on the other hand, you also got grandma's kitchen tips. The site assumed its audience wasn't just political junkies, but also family-minded voters who appreciate a little down-home relatability. Spoiler, this did not win him the election. Alright. So who exactly was this website for? Because remember, in 1996, not everyone was hopping online. Your grandma wasn't refreshing bobdole96.com between soap operas. The imagined audience here was smaller, more specific. Rhetoricians Lisa Edit and Andrea Lunsford call this the address audience, the real-world readers on the other side of the screen. First, First, the address audience: journalists, donors, and political junkies.
Putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
The kind of people who actually bothered to read 6 paragraphs on foreign policy while their modem screamed in the background. For them, the website was a 24/7 press kit. Speeches, policy blurbs, press releases, basically free material to quote. And then, here's the invoked audience, the one the site is trying to imagine onto being. Edit and Lunsford call this the invoked audience, not who actually logged on, but the ideal audience that text tries to call into being. And this is where things get interesting. Remember that cookie recipe we laughed at earlier? Well, here's the thing. It wasn't just random filler. This was Elizabeth Dole's cookie recipe, slipped into the site like a digital bake sale. It's classical political rhetoric, reaching out to homemakers, woman voters, and family-oriented users by saying, "See, we're just like you. Why We don't just want your vote. We just want you to sit at your kitchen table. Sorry, guys. So, in rhetorical terms, the website wasn't only selling policies, it was selling identity. Bob and Elizabeth Dole as a wholesome, family-centered couple, which, on a primitive HTML website, looked clunky. It shows how campaigns were already experimenting with digital spaces to create personal connections. The same logic that gave us recipes in 1996 gave us reels of politicians awkwardly flipping pancakes in 2024 or doing TikTok dances. In other words, the audience wasn't just the online voter, it was twofold. Serious readers looking for policy, and everyday Americans looking for a candidate who felt like family. The design tried to serve both, though, let's be honest, the cookies probably landed better than the Medicare policy page. Oh, now, zoom out. Okay, zoom out again. Nope, that's too far. Zoom in again. Zoom. Enhance. Alright, because Bob Dole's website wasn't just a policy blurb and recipe, it was a cultural artifact. In 1996, having a campaign website meant you were modern, plugged into the future, and not afraid of the scary new thing called the World Wide Web. The cultural context matters here. The internet in the 90s wasn't universal. It was expensive, clunky, and mostly used by middle-class households, college kids, big tech adopters. So, just being online clicked a signal. Bob Dole's campaign wasn't only about reaching voters, but it was also about showing legitimacy in the digital frontier. This connects to a digital rhetoric scholars who argue that online texts shape objectivities, how users see themselves and their role in digital democracy. And identity? This is where it gets fun. For the user, navigating Dole's site wasn't just about learning policy, it was about becoming part of a new political audience, the online citizen. The campaign especially told you, if you're here, you're just not a voter, you're a part of a digital future of democracy
manifest.
Which sounds lofty, unless you realize half the link broke and clicked too fast. Still, there's no denying it. This website helped shape digital identity. If you were one of the few who logged in, you got to feel ahead of the curve, connected to the national convention in a new way. And for the campaign, it was about crafting Dole's identity as both a serious statesman and an approachable family man. And that's why Elizabeth's cookies are right there next to Medicare reform. The message. Politics isn't just about policy, it's personal.
So yeah, even in its awkward design choices, the Dole Camp website shows how digital spaces aren't neutral. They carry cultural baggage, shape identity, and they tell us much about who the audience was supposed to be, as they do for the candidate themselves.
So, what have we learned from Bob Dole's magical journey into cyberspace? That, in 1996, politics was still trying to figure out what even the internet was. Was it a press release machine? A digital family cookbook? A new frontier for democracy? Turns out, it was all of the above. In other words, exactly what Zappen and Porter argue, digital rhetoric is about how technology reshapes identity, delivery, and the ways audiences engage with political text. This is design choices, from blocky text to her cookie, like again, cookies, weren't just quirks, they were rhetorical moves, attempting to imagine an audience, connect with them, and make politics feel personal at a time when people were still asking,
"What's the URL?"
And if you compare that to today, where campaign floods TikTok, Twitter, or YouTube with memes, live streams, and endless hot takes, you realize Bob Dole's awkward little website was step one. Step 1 on the path to politics as we know it. A non-stop digital roast battle that somehow manages to sneak in recipes. So, yeah, politics might not have gotten a lot more civil, but thanks to Bob Dole, at least those insults don't take 20 minutes to load anymore.